With the beaver style bait, I always use a straight shank flipping hook, and I run the hook all the way through till I can feel the point sticking out the other side, but I don't want it sticking out. You know, I make sure there's a cavity, a hole, so it'll penetrate good. But yeah, that's.
Yeah, yo-yo, how many times do you use the yo-yo?
Okay, he asked about the yo-yoing, how many times. It's really based on the situation. Like when you saw me win Okeechobee that year, every one of them bid it on the fall. I never yo-yoed the bait a single time. Maybe a couple casts if I really felt like there was one there. Another particular tournament I can remember, I left the bait in there for up to 2 minutes before I took it out. The water temperature was 40-something degrees, and Florida bass don't like that. You know, that's from one extreme to the other there. Most of the time, once, maybe twice. Like some 90% of the time. Always. Anytime, and I don't know, I probably should have covered this already, but the snell knot is the biggest piece of the puzzle, I think, that makes this whole system work. And the bigger the weight you get, the more effective I think that snell knot is. I don't know if anybody wants to look at this. I tied this right before I came out here. This is a snell knot. It's not tied directly to the eye. And if I had a monitor up here or something, I would show you guys, and I'll be happy to show you, like after the seminar's over, teach you how to tie this knot. But it's an extremely important knot. Anytime I use a straight shank flipping hook, it's snelled. And the reason that, I know you guys will see this, when a fish grabs a bait, you got your beaver on here, you got your 1.5 ounce sinker, you drop it through a mat or drop it into a log jam or wherever it is you're fishing, and that fish grabs it like this, and you set the hook. A lot of times that 1.5 ounce tungsten sinker can hit that fish right in the roof of the mouth, and it'll pop his mouth open, and out comes your bait, and the hook never gets in his mouth. What the snell knot does is it creates a cam action, and when that weight hits that fish's mouth, like picture my hand as the fish's mouth. When that weight hits that roof of that fish's mouth, this is what happens. Does everybody see that? That's what the snell knot does for you. It's really, I've been using a snell knot now for probably 10 years, and it's really changed. I can remember going, when tungsten came out, going from my 1.5 ounce jigs to the tungsten weights, and then the straight shank flipping hooks. You know, they really haven't been around that long, but I mean, my hookup percentage doubled. I mean, I was catching just about every fish that bit. That's how good it is. If it's tied on there right and you have the proper bait and the proper setup, I mean, you really can catch just about every fish that bites. I really prefer this setup over a jig. Most of the time, the jig, and you know, there's stuff now with the punch skirts that offer that jig profile, and I'm really starting to lean towards that now than fishing jigs like I used to in the old days. Like every time I would have my flipping stick out, I had a jig on it. Now I'm leaning more towards the snell knot, straight shank flipping up.
Do you always go with a heavy flipping hook, or do you ever go with a lighter scale?
He asked about the diameter of the hook. I'd say 90% of the time it's a VMC 4/0 heavy duty flipping hook. I mean, I hardly ever use a smaller diameter. I mean, that works with all the setups that I have, from the light rod all the way up to the 711 extra heavy. I mean, it just gets the job done for me. And that particular hook, I mean, I've tried them all. Really happy with the VMC hook, especially for the price. It's one of your cheaper flipping hooks out there. So the other bait, we talked about jigs, tubes, beavers. The other one I utilize a lot is this one. Well, I took it off. This one. I'm not sponsored by Strike King, but in my opinion, this is one of the best, like, deep grass baits that you can have. Anytime I'm fishing really deep grass, Strike King Rage Crawl, the setup is exactly the same. Tungsten weight, 4/0 flipping hook, and this bait, I've won a lot of money. I use it as a swim jig trailer as well. But anytime I'm targeting grass, hydrilla or mill full, and say 5 foot or more, where it's really maybe not matted, or even sometimes matted. If the bait is falling vertically a long ways, this bait tends to shine for me over the beaver. And I think the reason is that beaver has a gliding action, and it doesn't create a big disturbance. This thing's got those pinchers on the back, and I don't know if you've ever seen one when it's falling, but they go crazy. I think a bass like feels those vibrations, and I've utilized it. At Toledo Bend this year, I finished third, and I caught a few on a Z-Hog, but about 90% of them on this Strike King Rage Craw. I've utilized it at Seminole, just countless places. And as far as colors, it's really complicated for me. I got this green pumpkin one and a black and blue one most of the time. I do like the Okeechobee Craw in that as well. It's like the Potomac River. I did really well with that Okeechobee Craw color, but it's still green pumpkin, sapphire blue, and black and blue. And there are times, if you like I said yesterday in my seminar, if you like throwing a purple worm, then by all means, just fish what you have confidence in. That's what I do. Yeah, he asked about the watercolor. I mean, it's really just it's kind of common sense that the black and blue, like in Florida, works really well in gin clear water. But most of the places, if I'm in clear water, I go with the green pumpkin color more than I would favor like a black and blue. The sapphire blue especially I like in muddier water. So translucent colors, clear water, dark colors in muddier water, and usually, a black and blue will work in any condition though, really. You just really got to let the fish tell you. That's why I keep 2 colors of tubes. If they don't bite one, I put the other one on. If they don't bite it, I put the other one back on until I figure out what they want. So.
Quiet entry, loud entry, does it just depend on the fish?
Yeah, he's talking about the entry, and I think that's where I was going to go to next. It's kind of starting to get into the technique of it, and that's where I see a lot of people make mistakes. We've talked about baits, and I gave you the baits that I use. Obviously, just use what you got confidence in. So technique, obviously, one of the biggest keys to this technique is making a quiet entry. I don't want, if a fish is tucked up under a bush or up under a dock, or if he's in a mat in a foot of water, just hold him there. I don't want a big disturbance. I don't want to alert him that bait's there. I want it to surprise him. So I want that bait to go in there quietly. And that's a huge key, and it just takes a lot of practice. So quiet entry is a key. If the technique that I demonstrated, a lot of the quiet entry is really controlled with your thumb. But it's definitely a huge factor, quiet entry.
But if you kind of punch through a really thick net, how you do a quiet entry, that's the deal.
Yeah, he asked about punching. Most of the time, that's why I've gone up to a 2-ounce weight, so I don't have to punch. And I'll demonstrate a punch for you. Like there are times when grass mats get really slimy, and that weight won't go through there without a punching technique. But that's a punch. And you have to do that sometimes. And believe it or not, with that bait pounding through a mat, they'll still bite it as soon as it goes through. They're so fast. But that's really, I don't utilize that much. That situation doesn't come about very much. I would much rather make a pitch, use a heavy enough tungsten sinker so it'll get through there on its own. And a lot of that is just due with placement. You can kind of size up the cover you're fishing and find a little hole or something for it to go through. But the punching thing, there's not a lot of guys that do it, but I do utilize that from time to time, and it's quite simply, well, I'm hung up now. It's quite simply just getting the bait up in the air, and you want the weight to hit the mat first, and it'll shoot right through there.